As a high school teacher and as a mother of 2 teenagers myself, I know I'm constantly trying to keep up with the language. So I'm Googling all the time, what does on fleek mean? What does it mean when something's ratchet? For the longest time, when I would hear someone say like, oh, that outfit's ratchet, I'd be like, oh, thanks, you too. Not realizing that ratchet does not mean what I thought it meant. Or now it's, oh, that's so extra, that's extra. And the language constantly changes. Why? Because it's the code for the generation. You know, in many of the marriage talks that I give, I'll often speak about the verse in Surah Ar-Rum that's known as the marriage verse. The verse that reminds us to incorporate mawadda wa rahma in our interactions. But when we look at the verse that follows verse 21 in Surah Ar-Rum, when we look at verse 22, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminding us that we have been created with a diversity of tongues. And the word lisan is used. Lisan is very different than languages. And although sometimes you will look at the translation of that verse and you'll see the word language is used, the word lisan means tongue. Why tongue instead of language? All of us sitting in this room here may say, well, we all speak English, right? But when we begin to converse with our teenagers, when we begin to converse with our children, suddenly we're hearing things like LOL and OMA and BIO and lots of small acronyms for things that we have to stop and say, wait, is that even English? It's the same language, but it's a different tongue. I remember the first time I heard my youngest daughter, she was walking around the house saying, OMA, OMA. And I ran to urbandictionary.com, and I've mentioned this in several of my talks, it's a beautiful website that kind of guides you to the lingo of today. And I logged in and I put in OMA, and nothing came up. And I'm like, what is this OMA? So I went to my youngest daughter and I asked her, what's OMA? And she was like, Mama, it's oh my Allah. Everybody's saying it. And I realized that even at that young of an age, there is a sort of code that is shared among youth, among our children. And it's a code that sometimes we cannot be privy to, because language is powerful. The words we choose can shape our world.